Hi, Rita and I will be conducting the research portion of Legal Research in Writing. In preparation for our first meeting in week 2, there are 2 videos you have to watch, this being the first. It is important that you watch all the videos. The content will be reviewed at the beginning of class in a quiz.
Now, what can you expect over the next 3 weeks? Rita and I will see you in class over the course of 3 weeks, starting in week 2. Each session will last 1 hour. Prior to each class, there may be videos or readings you will be required to review. In class, there will be a quick recap and an opportunity to discuss certain issues in more depth. This will be followed by hands-on activities which will enable you to apply what you have learned. In week 2, we will focus on the importance of a research strategy, introduce you to search techniques, and orientate you to legal databases such as Lexis and Westlaw. In week 3, you will be introduced to legal secondary sources and how to make effective use of these tools for research. In week 4, you will be introduced to case law research, the important process of noting up, and how to search for legislation. Now, over weeks 5 to 7, you will have to register for a 1.5-hour workshop. This will be held on Thursday afternoon in the Learning Lab of the library on level 5. You will have to register on the library website for your slot. A separate email will be sent to remind you, and attendance is compulsory.
Here is an outline of the video content that will be covered in week 2. The first video explains the importance of having good legal research skills and the benefits of applying a legal research process. The second video explains online search strategy and how to effectively use Boolean searching or terms and connectors to conduct a more controlled and effective search online.
So why is it important to have good research skills? Think about it. Why is it such a critical skill for law in particular? For one, it saves you time. All of you are very intelligent. If you were given enough time to work by trial and error, you might be able to locate the information you need. However, after just 1 term of law school, I think you realize that you do not have the luxury of time. You will have even less time in practice. The goal of these classes is to make you an efficient and effective researcher. Secondly, there is a cost aspect. Cost-effective searching is not something you have to worry about right now in law school. You have unlimited use of the library's databases for your studies at SMU. However, when you start to practice, there will be cost incurred for legal research. All firms have chargeback policies that determine the research cost that should be billed back to the client and how much should be absorbed by the firm. Even if the firm has a flat rate contract for a database, it does not mean you don't need to worry about how you use it. The term flat rate can be confusing. The contract rate for the next renewal will depend on the usage for the current term. So if you do not approach your search in a paid database like Lexis or Westlaw systematically, you may run up unnecessarily high usage charges, which the firm will have to pay for come renewal time. There is another reason, perhaps the most important reason of all. It is part of a lawyer's professional and ethical obligation. The practice of law involves activities including drafting documents, counseling clients, negotiating with other lawyers, and advocacy. Each of these activities demands that the lawyer knows and applies the law in a particular situation. Ask yourself what would happen if you did not do a thorough job of researching an issue for a client. Research skills are critical because the law is vast and constantly changing. It is impossible for you to know everything. When you are in practice, you will frequently be asked to research topics you have never encountered before, and you can't turn around and say, "I didn't study that in uni." As I mentioned before, the goal here is to become an efficient researcher. Basically, you want relevant and more authoritative results in a shorter time at the lowest price possible. I've explained why it is important to have good research skills. So how do expert researchers do it? Well, good researchers always have a plan. By plan, I do not mean highlighting keywords in your assignment question, throwing them into a Google search box, crossing your fingers, and hoping for the best. By plan, I mean a method or process to apply when researching a topic. By applying this basic process, you should be able to start researching any topic. When you have been given a research question, the first thing you should do is take some time to identify the scope of the legal question. Think about the issues, areas of law, identify the facts, jurisdiction, applicable time period. Think about the possible key sources, whether it be text or databases, which you might refer to, and the search terms that you might use. Remember, this is a brainstorming process, so it doesn't have to be 100% correct. You're just thinking about all the possibilities. The next step should really be consulting a secondary source. This is often preferable to starting with a keyword search in a database. Don't forget that you are often researching something you know very little about. How would you know what keywords to use? Starting with a secondary source such as a legal encyclopedia or a key text will give you context, terminology, and highlight key cases and key legislation. This will then allow you to expand your search. Some of these valuable secondary sources will be covered in week 3. Referring to secondary sources would have highlighted relevant legislation, which you now have to locate in full text in other resources, check for updates, and other related legislation. Your prior search of secondary sources would have identified some relevant cases. You now need to locate them, read them, and evaluate to determine if they are on point for your particular question. The next stage is really to determine if the authority is still good law. This is an important process which sometimes gets overlooked and will be covered in more detail in week 4. The process not only allows you to check if it's still good law, but helps to expand your search by identifying subsequent cases that may have followed, applied, or distinguished the decision. Research is seldom a one-stop process, and you will need to fill gaps in your research. You may have to conduct online searches in other databases for other commentary, cases, or legislation. When conducting your online searches, you will have to try different variations of your searches too. Last but not least, you should keep a record of your research trail. Take meticulous notes as you work through your research strategy. Include titles, URLs, edition, page numbers, etc. I know students dread this, but it pays to keep track of which texts you have referred to, which databases you are searching, and the keywords you have used. Good notes will prevent you from needing to retrace your steps.
If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the library at library@smu.edu.sg.